What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Marvel Buddies podcast. I'm joined by Knight again.
What's up, man?
What's
How
up?
you
What's up?
doing?
It's been a minute here. Let me fix this camera real quick.
Yep.
All right. Um. So you know what time of the year it is, Knight?
It's the fall,
It's the fall. Yeah. It's spooky season. It's spooky season. You know, that's
Halloween
that's
time.
the time of the year it is, right? And so for these next 3 weeks, right? I decided that I want to be a real nice guy. Um, and for those watching, if you guys look at the title of the video, there is spoiler warnings because a lot of what I'll be covering is backstory for Marvel's new special Werewolf by Night, right? So regarding that, there have been three important characters brought into the MCU through Werewolf by Night, right? Give me a second. Here, hold on. Forgot to do one thing. Oh, my door. All right. There have been three important characters brought by the MCU for Werewolf by Night, right? And I have one of those characters this week. Now, I know we covered a little bit of Werewolf by Night when I did my Darkhold episode because he was the one that originally took the Darkhold. Um and if you guys have seen Werewolf by Night, um Pranay, have you seen Werewolf by Night, the Marvel special?
No.
Okay. So
Nope.
this week, all right, we're covering this perfect, right? We're covering Ted this week for those who have seen Werewolf by Night. And now Pronite hasn't seen Werewolf by Night, and I'm like pretty certain Pronite might not know who this character is. So Pronite, do you want some backstory on this character?
On Ted?
On Ted.
Like we're not talking about Ted like the
The
teddy
teddy
bear,
bear?
right?
No, 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 no. We're talking about Ted. We're talking about Ted. Right? So he debuted in Savage Tales #1 in 1971 by Stan Lee, Steve Gerber, Jerry Conway, and Gray Morrow. Right? In a Conan the Barbarian comic, which I could not find for you guys because Conan the Barbarian is no longer owned by Marvel, but they still, I think, are being written by. I think their comics are still getting written by Marvel, or they're like pretty much they're not on. It wasn't on Marvel Unlimited, so I couldn't find his first debut. So I gave you his second debut. Best thing I could do. And then I have his origins, which goes back through his origin story, but I have it here. Right. So his name Ted, right, is if I'm not mistaken, it stands for Theodore Silas, right? If I'm not mistaken, right? Let me just yeah, 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 yeah. All right, all right, all right, all right. So Theodore, right? Theodore Silas is his human name or regular name, and he goes by a different name, but he was created in Strange Tales #1 in 1971. All right, I'll let you try and guess on which character we're talking about here.
Is it one of the three characters
It
that
is one of the three characters from Werewolf by Night.
well, I don't want to know because I haven't
You haven't seen it,
seen.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So do you want me to give you some
But
more on
it's
his
the first one
powers?
Ted, right?
It's
That's
Ted.
one of
His
the
name
three?
is Ted. Theodore Silas or Ted. Um, I'll give you a backstory on his powers, right? Ted has, after falling into the Everglades, which is here in Florida, by the way, he fell into a swampy hole in the Everglades. He pretty much mutated and became a giant monster made of swamp and like plants and whatnot.
So he's a monster of like just green,
Hmm.
like
He's a he-
all. How can I put it?
he's a plant monster. He's like a plant. He's like
Okay.
a big plant
Okay.
monster. Yeah, yeah. He's got little things coming off his face, little like little tentacle lulus, and because of his powers, right, he was able to create what do like his skin can or skin his the plants on his skin can create a like it emits a certain sulfuric acid that can melt people. It melts flesh, human flesh. Yeah. Do you know who this
Sounds
character is?
dangerous.
Yeah, it is very dangerous.
Do
Ted
I know him
Silas.
from a video game?
If he wasn't, he's probably in Marvel Champions, the one that you play, the Contest of Champions. He's probably in that, but If he is, it's probably recently. I don't remember if he was in it before. Um,
Nah, I don't know.
no. All right. So this week, for those who are interested, we are talking about good old fashioned, not Kazar. Sorry, he debuted in a Kazar comic. Good old fashioned Man Thing. Yeah, not to be confused with Swamp Thing, who debuted 2 months later. Funny story, probably as a form of like what is it? Plagiarism? Yeah, that's the word. Probably due to plagiarism. So, story time. Man Thing was created by the four guys I mentioned above, and one of them shared a room with another comic artist at DC Comics, right? 2 months after Man Thing had debuted in 1971, a character by the name of Swamp Thing, who, if you guys want to know what he looks like on stream, looks like this. Yeah, looks like this. Here, let's see if I can. Oops. See if I can move the display. He looks like that, right? He looks this. Hold on, let's get a better picture. Here's Swamp Thing, right? Here's Swamp Thing, and here's Man Thing. Let's get Man Thing and Swamp Thing together. Yeah, here they are. Creatures of sludge, right?
Man Thing more looks more like Swamp Thing.
They're what do you mean? They're both
Like the name suits Man Thing. Like Swamp Thing suits
Swamp
Man
Thing.
Thing.
Yeah, okay,
Like
okay,
if
yeah.
they had switched names.
That's yeah. I do get confused at times when I talk about them because they are very similar characters, right? But we are talking about Man Thing, all right? And I want to go into depth a little bit because I wrote a 3-page paper pretty much on Man Thing, on his powers, which are ridiculous, by the way. He has some like OP powers. How about the Thing? Well, he's just made of rocks, so I mean, when you have like fighting right going on, you have Man Thing who's like grass, and the Thing who's made of rock, right? So when they fight, by the logic of Pokemon, grass beats rock, so yeah. but but okay, and I'm pretty certain if the Thing fought Man Thing, which they have by the way, there's so many comics from like the 80s and the 70s where he's with everybody, right? Because they just want to see who'll win in a fight, right? But his powers consist of first, since he's made of vegetable matter, his whole body's malleable, meaning that like he can walk through like a fence, right? And then like he'll just go through like the little like triangle poles, right? He'll just go through that. Cuz he's made of plants, so he doesn't need to like obey like matter, I guess. He's made of magic plants, by the way, because and I'll explain it. He kind of fell into the Everglades where the nexus of all realities is, and I'll explain this. But he kind of mutated with like the nexus of all realities being able to move through dimensions pretty much. It's some crazy, like he has like some crazy powers, right?
You're like confusing my mind with like
Yo,
all this shit
okay, okay.
already, bro.
All right. So, where'd I lose you? Where'd I lose you? Cuz he has some crazy powers here.
I
Um
wouldn't think a character like him would be
would be like
dangerous.
crazy, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe before I talk about his powers to calm you guys down or like ease it up, I will talk about his backstory, right? So to better understand where he comes from and where we'll find it and all that, you have to know about like Ted, right? And so Ted was a biochemistry professor at Empire State University, which is where all the major superheroes kind of like come from, right? So like Spider-Man graduated from there. I'm pretty sure Reed Richards graduated from there. A bunch of like the top people graduated from Empire State, right? So he's from Empire State, and Silas, he's recruited by the U.S. Army. This is way back for World War One or World War Two, called for a project known as Project Sulfur, right? And so they sought for a way to be able to survive chemical warfare through this biochemist, right? And so he creates a serum SO2, which is supposed to grant you immunity to all biochemicals, right? However, it didn't work, and so the government moved on, and Ted's like girlfriend or wife at the time, whose name is St. Cloud, convinced him to shut it down because it was, it wasn't going anywhere, it was hurting people, and so he called it off, right? And he went back to teaching, but when he goes back to teaching, he falls in love with a student by the name of Ellen Brandt, right? And she's 19 and he's probably like 30, which is kind of weird. But
What the hell?
yeah, but
Yeah.
the two of them have like this secret affair, and eventually he leaves his wife, blah blah blah. Um, he goes to a fortune teller named Swabata, and she tells him that his life is gonna change, right? And he doesn't believe in that crap, so he's like, whatever. But he tries to go back to creating that serum because Shield asks him to do it for it is legal, but when Shield offers him to do it to rejoin the program to recreate the super soldier like Captain America, like everyone else has tried. They did it with the Hulk, and now they want Silas to do it. And so they signed him up for Project Gladiator, and they moved him to Florida's Everglades, right? And he opened, his SO2, file serum to try and recreate it, right? But to try and see if he can take that to make Captain America, right? A new Captain America, right? But he spends all day in his lab and kind of neglects his wife Ellen, and so she turns to AIM, Advanced Idea Mechanics, which you guys might remember from Iron Man 3. They typically look like, if you've seen the animated show MODOK, they're the guys in the beekeeper suit, right? Um, but yeah, AIM tries to pretty much take Silas and take the serum for themselves. Um, and so AIM ends up ambushing Silas as he's leaving his like lab, and he realizes like I can't let them get this because this is pretty much the closest thing I have to a super soldier serum. So what he does is he burns the notes that he left, memorizing them as quickly as possible, and then injecting himself with it. But what ends up happening is they like crash his car into like the Everglades like sewer or like sewage and like all the like swamp area around him. And when he injects himself, the at the Everglades, the nexus of all reality is there, right? So you can cross to alternate realities through the Everglades. So he injects himself, falls into the Everglades, and then the mixture of the like pollution from the swamp, the serum, and the radiation coming from the nexus of all realities morphs him into Man Thing, right? Which is what gives him all these powers. And then Silas ends up you know turning into Man Thing, killing all the AIM agents and burning like Ellen's face off or like disfiguring her, and then leaves his home, right? And so that's where those powers come from, right? Um, so again, since he morphed with the plants, he is pretty much a giant plant, right? So I should pretty much get to his anatomy. Since he's a plant, technically he to some of you might get this reference. Pranay, did you watch Avatar: The Last Airbender?
Like the cartoon?
Yeah.
Um, I watched some of it.
Do you
I didn't watch
remember
all of
the
it.
two guys that were like half naked and could bend the swamp and they made a swamp monster?
No,
All
no.
right, it was worth a shot because it kind of works like that to those that are like, if you guys plan on watching it, where he's in, it's almost like he's inside of a suit, but not really at the same time, right? Like, because he's living inside of the conscious that is like Ted is inside the brain of Man Thing, but he is like the Man Thing body, right? So it's like he is pretty much just vegetable and paper and leaves, right? But he's inside like the mind of Man Thing, right? Kind of like the Hulk and Bruce Banner, right? Um, but unlike the Hulk and Bruce Banner, his brain isn't actually here, right where his head would be. It's shattered into like a million pieces, and so it's scattered all over his body. His brain is like tiny fragments of his brain are all over his body. And then because of that, right, he doesn't feel emotion, but he can sense other people's emotions. And that's where his powers come from, right? When he senses your emotion, he's curious and he goes to it, right? So, um, the big one being anger or fear, right? When he senses someone that's scared of him or angry at him, he'll end up attacking them, and that's when his natural body secretes the sulfur, and he'll melt your brains off with it, right? So it all kind of is attached to that I am an empath with grass powers kind of thing. So are you kind of getting where I'm trying to go to? I know it's a lot to take in because he has
Yeah.
a frick load of powers, bro. Um, including cryokinesis or not chlorokinesis, which is the ability to manipulate plants like poison ivy. You know how she can
Yeah.
like he can
Yeah.
do that, and he can because he's a plant he can move like anywhere, right? And he can regrow lost parts like Groot.
He could change his size
He
and
can change
like
his size. Yep. Um,
okay.
but the other thing is, since he mixed with the nexus of all realities, his brain, right, or whatever, wherever they are, all over his body, um, can also sense emotions, and then with that, he can pretty much melt you down. Um, he has a
Huh?
bunch of other powers like being able to cross realities. Like move, he can move through realities because he's the guardian of the Nexus, and the jungle and the Everglades and whatnot. But yeah, he's like a boatload of powers. He can fly for some reason. They just gave him the ability to fly.
What?
Like he is literally just a thing of plants, and he can just
A
you know,
flying plant.
yeah, yep, like just a flying plant. He also can he has super strength, obviously, because he's a plant, and which plant doesn't have super strength? Um, but yeah, he has like a really ridiculous amount of powers. But the big thing is that because he's a weird looking monster, right? Because of his like kind of when I get there, his looks, right? A lot of people are afraid. Like if this thing came out of the forest, like you'd be afraid, right? And when that happens, he tends to go to it. So if you guys again spoilers for whoever hasn't seen Werewolf by Night, but there's a small scene where Jack tells Elsa, two characters that I do plan on covering in the future, um talk to him like he's your friend, right? Um because if you're afraid of him, or if you're like, oh, this is a monster, I gotta kill it, kind of like the guy from Beauty and the Beast trying to kill the Beast, right? Like kind of like that. If you try and like be aggressive with him, or if you try to hurt him, he has no like way of holding back the acid that comes out of his body, and so he'll defend himself, and you'll just melt, disintegrate, gone, right? Um, but yeah, I kind of do want to get into that Kazar comic. So he actually, it's technically not a Kazar comic. It's Astonishing Tales, which includes Kazar. Um, but um, how do I give this backstory? Kazar pretty much flies to New York with this pretty girl that he finds. Kazar is like Tarzan, but
Or
with a
Craven.
or Kazar's more savage than Kraven because he's literally because Kraven is like for the hunt. Kazar is literally like a guy living in the jungle kind of thing, and he lives at oh crap, what is that place called? Where all the dinosaurs are at the North Pole, like that one part where all the grassland is. The Savage Lands. He lives in the Savage Land, and he has a pet saber-toothed tiger named Zabu, right? If you guys, for those that have seen the X-Men, the animated series, when Professor X lands in the Savage Lands and Wolverine needs help, he ends up getting help from Kazar and Zabu, um, to free them from who is it, Mr. Sinister. Um, but yeah, Kazar pretty much follows this girl back. Like he's half naked, wearing like the Tarzan like strap, and he follows her back and is pretty much just trying to get her to like bang him the whole time. But anyway, he realizes that he has to like be a part of society, and Zabu ends up coming back to like in a cage, obviously, to Kazar. And so Kazar's like sprinting. He's like, I gotta go save Zabu. What are you doing? And Zabu's like, free. He's like hunting. He's like, he's like, he's an animal. He's territorial. And so the cop pulls out, tries to pull out the gun, and Kazar tackles Zabu because Zabu is more dangerous than a cop with a gun, right? He's like, I can't let you hurt these innocent people, and he holds them back. Um, he's like, Kazar, he might have torn you to ribbons. He's like, yeah, you both have spent long nights with Kazar in the hidden jungle. You still do not know either Kazar or Zabu. The Longtooth is my brother. He will never harm me no matter what, right? So it's like they are like bonded. They're really close to each other. Um, but um, But yeah, pretty much the cops are like, "Oh, hey, you're Kazar. I know who you are. You're under arrest, right? Because you're a savage." And the girl that he's trying to bang, who's also a scientist, by the way, they're both are, and they're both friends of Silas, or Theodore, Ted, and they're like, get in the car, right? And they take him, and pretty much they show him Ellen, the picture of Ellen, right? And she's like, this is what happened to her, and we need you to be able to help us track down Ted's Silas, right? Who he vanished, and we need to find him. He's in Florida, um, and he's like, okay, he takes on the job, and they end up helicoptering to the Everglades, but AIM is already there, right? AIM is already there, and they've been tracking them, and they wheel up this like gun and blast the helicopter out of the sky, right? And so Kazar's like, we have to like abandon ship and whatnot, so they crash into the ocean, and he pulls out the girl, I forget get her name. She's an important doctor, but she'll never show up again. And he brings her to safety, and then there's this giant alligator, cause Florida, and so being the savage that he pretty much is, he grabs the alligator and starts like wrestling it, and brings the girl, like saves the girl. I forgot her name, Doctor. He's Paul Allen. Her name is something else. But Zabu is leads them to the laboratory that they're in, right? And here they are, and they're like, "Oh, that cat of yours is better than a radar." And he's like, "If only your lost comrade were found as easily, right?" And the girl wakes up, and she's like, "You're okay. We're here." He's like, "But Dr. Calvin, I got to know how she is." And they go to this old lady named Dr. Wendell, right? And she was she was pretty much in a coma, right? And here she is, Dr. Wendell. She's this old like African American lady, and she's the last person to have seen Man Thing, right? And so Man Thing knows who she is because Dr. Silas and her used to be buddies together. So Dr. Wendell's like, I know who he is. I know he needs our help, like, but she's in a coma. She can't really tell them that. And so Man Thing kind of peers in through the window, and here he is. He's like, yes, Kazar, Barbara, I guess that's the girl's name, didn't get a chance to tell you before. That's the reason we've been able to conduct a more thorough search for Silas. The locals are afraid to help us scour the glades, afraid of something they say lives here, something which may have burned that girl's face so horribly, right? And that being Man Thing. And so Man Thing is looking forward, and he's like, there's something that may even have killed Ted Silas. And little do they know that Man Thing is Ted Silas, right? It's like they're wrong, aren't they, monster? So very wrong. But you can't tell them, can you? Now you can only gaze through the window, stare dumbly forlornly at the pitiful creatures who lies upon the bed beneath. Um, once, though you could have done more, but that was before. That was a world ago, an eternity ago, before the grim-visaged fates visited the ultimate irony upon you before you became the shambling, unspeakable monstrosity they know only as Man-Thing. Right, and then they go into his backstory here. But I just want to make sure that you guys are okay with this backstory, right? Because I know it's a bit complicated, right? So are you still kind of with me here?
Yeah.
Okay. So then they get into that backstory that I mentioned before, where AIM kind of chases his car. He injects himself. AIM chases his car into the Everglades, and he's born as Man Thing, right? And when he comes out as Man Thing, right? Um, you know, you wandered off into the waiting night. Time passed. Much time. You were aware of a presence, the stooped form of a wizened old woman trudging through the mire. Somewhat deep inside you, somewhere deep inside of you, something stirred a thought, a glint of recognition. You knew somehow that she might be, more than anyone else, might be able to help you. You followed your ponderous bulk. You moved your ponderous bulk to follow her, but and then there's this guy walking through, and he's like, "I'll teach that old witch woman. She can't, she can't come sneaking around here with all her evil ways, y'all." That's how he speaks, cause they know us Floridians are, you know, southern accent and pretty much like hillbilly voice. Good Lord, it's true. All true. She's building monsters out here. And then he ends up like, he's like, "Oh, step back," right? Because he's afraid, right? Because he's going to the witch, right? Which was the girl in the coma who was working with Dr. Silas, and he's going to like yell at her for making monsters, and he ends up realizing that she's right and that she made a monster. Obviously not. He made himself, and he ends up like he sees like that this guy's afraid. Oops, I posted this twice. And pretty much, oh man, I posted that twice. Hold on, I want to show you the image of him melted, getting his face melted off. It's sick. Hold on. Give me a brief
You think
moment.
that's sick?
Yo, it's so cool, bro. He like gets his whole face melted off. Hold on. This like poor dude. Hold on. Oh, I'm sorry. He gets his arm melted off. Wow. Hold on. Where is it? Go to the end. Where's the end? End. God, it's much easier at the end of the freaking picture. Um, Here it is. He pretty much just grabs his arm, and you can see it like sizzling off, right? And he ends up
Jesus.
like you reach out to stop him, and you notice with curiosity that his flesh smoldered from your touch. The mutilated one was gone from your thoughts as quickly as he was gone from your sight, and the image of the woman once more filled your mind. You stumbled along silently, struggling through pierce to pierce the cobwebs cloaking your mind. Where did you know the old woman from? Where did why did the almost memory persist? And this is the old woman. You studied the crags of her rough-hewn face, dark, driven. How many secrets were locked behind her eyes, and what business could you ever have had with the witch? Memory, the meshing of gears, and an almost forgotten piece of your past existence clicked violently into place. Your laboratory, Project Gladiator, and here she is, right? Thanks, Paul. Jim has anything been heard of Dr. Silas? And they're like, no, Dr. Calvin, Dr. Morse has gone out to look for him, but we've got our hands full just handling the crank calls from the townspeople. I'll tell you someone's stirring them up, right? And he's like, AIM, the spy group that Shield warned us about. Um, while we isolated ourselves so we could create a super soldier and indestructible warrior, and we've got to keep working towards that end. Ted Silas or no Ted Silas, right? And so here he is in the corner, kind of like watching in, and he's like, pretty much he's like, the people come, right? The like townsfolk come, and they're like, all right, yo, witch, it's time for a reckoning. Get yourself out of here, right? And out she comes, and they're like, do you hear me in there, witch woman? We got your partner out here. If you want to see her stay in one piece, you'll get your rump outside. We know what's been going on here, all about the monsters you've been mixing up in this little hunk of hell. Well, no more, you crone. No more. This time we're gonna put it all to an end, bro. Reading Hillbilly is difficult. But here's a dude. He's holding a gun up. He's like, Jasper Pierre met up with some of your research, and the doc just finished cutting off his arm. We're not gonna let it happen again, right? The guy whose arm they pretty much melted off. Now, are you giving yourself up, or do I have to blow your partner's pretty face off, right? And she kind of like escapes. She's like, Dr. Calvin, no, this one's from AIM. He stirred the others up, and he'll kill you if you. And he's like, get back here, right? Pulls her back. The scientists come out to try and pretty much like see what all the commotion is, and and one of them has a shotgun, right? He's like, let us handle this, doc. We'll shoot this first one who takes a step closer. And he's like, you'll do, and you'll have to pick up this chick's pieces before you can get to the rest of us, right? But like Man Thing is kind of just watching from the side, and he's like, you had stood Man Thing and waited and watched, and you felt the anger clutching at the base of your misshapen spine, angered that festered and grew until you could no longer contain yourself more. And he comes up pretty much behind them, and he has claws on his like fingernails, so he's pretty much like slashing them. This guy just absolute freaking blood coming out of his gets clawed straight through the neck. Someone ends up, he picks up someone like and ragdolls them pretty much into like a crowd. This guy gets his face melted off. Like this guy's dead. The guy that held the hostage, freaking sizzling everywhere, bro. Um,
So is he like a good guy? Or I mean,
so he fights a lot of characters, man. He pretty much because fear is what attracts him, right? Can you guess? I covered him last week. Can you guess which character has the nickname the Man Without Fear? That is
the
always up
man.
against, yeah, the Man Without Fear versus the guy that is attracted to fear. I know you probably don't, because I know you said you haven't seen She-Hulk either. You're waiting for it to all to come out or something. Or no, you're
Yeah.
still on Ms.
Has
Marvel,
it
I
all
think.
came out?
It all came out
Yeah.
last week, yeah. Um,
So it's done. She-Hulk is done.
She-Hulk is done. Um, but this character was in there for a couple episodes as well. Um, do you know
Man
who
Without
Matthew
Fear.
Murdock is?
Is that Daredevil?
Yeah. So Daredevil is pretty much like almost
The Man
always
Without Fear?
the man without fear. Yeah, the man without fear, the man that never dies, the devil of Hell's Kitchen. Right? He's almost always put up to fight um Swamp Thing. There's four characters that always fight Swamp Thing. Daredevil, the Hulk, because two green brutes versus each other. The Thing, because Man Thing and the Thing, right? Like Presidente said, funny enough, and Wolverine, right? Those are the four characters that are
Wolverine?
yeah, because pretty much this goes back to the question of who would win in a fight between Hulk and Thor, right? But then
Oh.
they added who would win in the fight between Wolverine and Hulk because Wolverine's adamantium claws can hurt the Hulk. And so now when you have that question of who will win between Hulk and the Thing and Man Thing, who will win between Man Thing and Wolverine, right? Because Wolverine's claws are made of vibranium, and also Wolverine's a good tracker, like what's his face, and they always
I mean, can you really hurt Man Thing because
plants.
like he's just made of
He's
made
literally
of
made of
plants?
plants. Yeah, it's hard to.
Is he unkillable?
Hmm. He's not. He has no real resistance to like he's a big tank, right? So like he's a big tank kind of guy, but he has no and he's like mind since it's scattered, it's hard to like mind control, but he has
Yeah.
no resistance to like magic, right? So
Mm.
um it's why again I did say spoilers for this, but it's why they end up having the bloodstone put on him. And I'll cover the bloodstone when I cover Elsa. And I probably won't get around to covering Ulysses, but I'll mention Ulysses in that Elsa episode, which I'll probably do next week. I'm not 100% sure. It's between
Well,
her
there's
and
a lot
Jack.
to talk about next week.
Yeah. Um, but yeah. The Bloodstone here. Oh shoot. Well, now you guys know what I was doing before that. Bloodstone. Here's Elsa, right? And where is the actual Bloodstone? It's this thing in her hand. It's that's such
Is
a
that the
terrible.
Squirrel Girl?
No, Squirrel Girl.
Oh,
We covered her. Oh, I covered her when I did. Were you with us in the Jessica Jones episode? I don't think you were, but when I
um,
covered Jessica Jones, she did. This was actually directly from that Jessica Jones episode. Um, let's see. Okay, this thing right here on his chest, that's the Bloodstone. It helps him. So it hurts monsters because Ulysses and Elsa are monster hunters, right? So the Bloodstone amplifies your power, but it also pretty much increases your lifespan and makes you like pretty much it helps you fight monsters, right? So when a monster touches the Bloodstone, it's like a burning sensation,
okay.
or like a light like a tasering sensation, right? So and it weakens monsters, right? Monsters can't aren't they're like for example, someone
So
like
that's basically Man Thing's kryptonite
pretty
right
much,
there.
yeah, like
Okay.
the Bloodstone is like is Man Thing's kryptonite. That's a good way to put it. Um, Man, I hit backspace on this by accident, so I have to go back and figure out where I was. But yeah, he melts off the dude's face somewhere. Where was I? Where was I? Where was I? Yeah, he melts off the dude's face and then ragdolls him, and then he stands up in front of like the other guys, and Barbara's hugging one of the other people, and he's like, he's like Barbara, you alright? He's like, and he's like, that's horrible, that horrible thing. Why is it? Why does it just stand there, right? And he can't. He has no vocal cords. Eventually, he does learn to speak, like an alien language. What's up, Crown? But he can't. He has no vocal cords because he's just vegetable and plant and swamp. So he's like, oh, oh. He pretty much he that's how he communicates. So, so that's his like form of communication, right? It's like, oh. So like they're like, what the hell is he trying to tell us, right? Um, so Dr. Calvin comes out and he's like, "What the hell are you doing? That thing will kill you." He's like, "No, no, 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 no. He needs our help, right? Because she can tell that he needs his help." He's like, in some strange way, like I felt like I know who this is. There's a man under this. Um, and then she's like, that Ted disappears and this guy's coming. This guy's here. But then this like shady figure's like, you're never gonna feel nothing, lady, never again, and he like pumps her spine, and so Man Thing is like furious because that's his like that maybe I did say spoilers for this episode, but he was in the trailer for it in case you also you spelled werewolf wrong twice. Werewolf. I'm pretty sure werewolf. Wait, is werewolf is WERE, right?
Yeah,
Werewolf. Yeah, yeah, werewolf WERE. He
WERE.
spelled werewolf twice. um. Hey man, the title has spoiler on it in exclamation point. Cause I was talking about the Werewolf by Night show briefly, but but it's just his backstory. I don't really want to get into Ted's kind of character in Werewolf by Night. He's just know that he's in the trailer. I even freeze framed it for you. What are you talking about? Is he in Werewolf by Night? I freeze framed it for you. I literally, when I showed you the trailer, I paused it for you so you could see Man Thing's face. Bruh, is he in Werewolf by Night? Anyway, yeah, I showed him the freeze frame of like Man Thing coming out of the bushes. Like, what are you talking about, dog? But, but yeah, anyway, that's his like backstory, and he's realizing it. He's like checking up on her to see if she's okay. I wonder who it could be, right, crowd? Um, but yeah, he's pretty much like she's still in her coma. I gotta come back when she's feeling better, and he walks away. How do you think the others find out about Man Thing? What do you think? What do you think leads them to it?
I mean, he's just walking in broad daylight. So,
Well, it is nighttime. Sorry, I should say it is
oh,
nighttime.
it is.
Yeah. How do
Oh,
you think he like? That's why he casts a shadow. He was casting a shadow. Like, see, it starts nighttime. What
oh,
do you? How do
okay.
you think they? And their lights are on, right? How do you think they find out about him? It's the
About
dumbest thing ever, bro.
no way. I wouldn't even guess then. Like I wouldn't.
He steps on a plant. He steps on a twig. he's like, he makes that like cracking sound, and Kazar's like, oh, who is that? Right? Like he does that 180 like turn, and he's like that sound. There's something outside. And he's like that smell. It smells like brimstone. And he's like smell. And then like Barbara and Paul are like, what the hell are you? We didn't hear anything. What are you smelling? Bro, dolphin dives out of a freaking window. Yo, dolphin dives out of a window. Yo, the 70s and the 60s, these people were. Yo, Stan Lee was smoking the good stuff, my guy. He had a line on his office every day, I swear, bro. Like, bro,
Like
instead of
before
walking to the
each
door, right?
page, he just like sniffs the line, bro. Before each page.
Have him jump out a window, bro, and chase a giant plant, right? And then Zabu's smart and goes through the door, right? Zabu goes through the door, and Kazar's like, no, we don't know what's out there, and he ties his neck around like a tree, and he's like, Kazar will learn more about our foe, and you'll come when I need you, right? And so Swamp Thing's kind of like trudging through the swamp because he doesn't know better, right? He's kind of like, what is going on in my chat, bro? but but yeah, Swamp Thing is kind of like trudging through the swamp and whatnot, and the AIM dudes are like, yo, we found them, right? And so the AIM dudes kind of like trap him in like this. He falls for like the oldest trick in the book, which is like a hole with like plants on it, like flower on it. So like he falls through it. You know what I'm talking about?
What? Yeah.
Later, bro. Have a good foot. Have a good football match, bro, or game. But he falls through that like hole where they dug a big hole and then put like something that like Team Rocket would come up in like Pokemon, bro. But yeah, he falls through and he's trying to crawl out and they're throwing shit into it like logs and whatnot. And they're like, "I'll laser him like a jigsaw puzzle," right? And Kazar comes in and he kicks the like crap out of um yeah, Pikachu. Is he in chat? Can you chat with Pikachu? That's pretty crazy. But but he kicks the crap out of the like AIM guys, and then they all put guns out. And the leader is like, no, 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 don't shoot him. and he's like, you don't want Kazar dead? Like that's the dumbest thing ever. But like, why wouldn't you shoot him? He's like, well, he's like, Kazar's like, well, at least we both feel the same way. But none of you guys can outmuscle me. So he takes the gun and like whacks the crap out of him. And one of them falls into the pit with Man Thing. Look at Man Thing's face, by the way. That's just goofy.
He has the
But
nose of an elephant.
yeah, he has that big like. That's why I said he had that little like the Cthulhu. Like if you ever
Yeah.
watch South Park, like Cthulhu's like little things.
Yep.
And he falls in. He's like, oh, where am I? And the cave is dark, right? So he can't see. And Man Thing's just like Man Thing can't see either, but he can hear, right? And he can sense like his emotions. And so he's like, oh no, and he like reaches out for him, and he tries to shoot, but he pretty much gets melted. And so one of the
So
guys, what's up?
you can't show no fear in front of Man-Thing.
Nope. You can't show. Pretty much, you have to talk to him like I'm talking to you now, right? Like just like we're buddies, we're pals, you know? We're you and me, we're tight, right? Like that's how you would have to be with Man Thing, or Man Thing will melt your face off. So the beekeeper guy, like he smacks Kazar in the back. They finally like outman him, and he falls into like the cave. And it's like, no, 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 I hit him too hard, and he's now with Man Thing. And he wakes up in the cave, and he's like, your eyes are becoming accustomed to the blackness. Are they not, Man Thing? This is not one of those who tried to hurt you. This one's different somehow. Or is he? Even in the gloom of the pit, the look which darts from his opening eyes. You've seen that look before, haven't you? It's fear, right? You hate fear. Most of all, don't you, Man Thing? And that which you hate, you must destroy. Right. And so the next couple of stuff is like them fighting and then them making up and making out probably. He probably like sucks on his tentacle, and then the two of them end up like leaving and becoming best friends. But he's actually funny enough. Do you know who his best friend is? I actually haven't gotten the chance to. I didn't get to put him in a comic, but he debuted in a this character that I covered. Presidente actually asked for it too. Debuted in a Man Thing comic. Do you know who his best friend is?
Can I get a hint?
He's an anthropomorphic duck.
Howard the Duck?
Yeah, they're best friends. Howard the Duck and Man Thing are best friends. Because Man Thing protects the nexus of all realities, right? And Howard the Duck came through that nexus of all realities, and so the first person he saw was Man Thing. So yeah, your boy,
Wow,
your
that's
Duck
pretty
Howard.
interesting.
Well, technically Howard is a boy still, so your boy Howard is technically a factual statement. Um, but yeah, Howard and Ted here are best of buds because um pretty much they like Howard doesn't know what to expect when he gets to this new reality, and he's just kind of like, hey, what's up, pal? Like fist bump kind of thing. And Ted's like, oh, he's cool, right? So um but yeah, there's that, and then I do want to talk about his kind of like next kind of group appearance, and the first time I can think of where he's with Werewolf by Night, which is here in the Legions of Monsters, right? And so a group of monsters, which I'm sure you can name all four of these characters, get together to, and actually their names are up top here, so and they form the Legion of Monsters, right? And it's funny because they kind of serve that purpose of the they kind of work like the Thunderbolts, right? Where they're but like without like the shady stuff on the side. It's kind of like they're monsters that everyone thinks are like, oh my god, they're gonna eat us and kill us or whatnot, fighting like being heroes and fighting against like villains that may or may not look like heroes, right? And so you have Man Thing, you have Morbius, Morbentime, the living vampire, and here's Werewolf by Night and Ghost Rider. I'm not 100% sure if this is Johnny Blaze. I think this is the Hispanic dude, but I'm not 100% sure because this is. I think this debut. This hold on, I can tell you when this premiered. I think this was 1972, so I think this is Johnny Blaze. Give me a moment here. Um, give me a second here. Let's see. I'm pretty sure it is. It is Johnny Blaze. Hold on. Oops. 1976. Yeah, 1976 is when they debuted. Um, so yeah, 1976. So I'm pretty sure this was Johnny Blaze because I think it's in '82 when they get that like Hispanic dude. But anyway, it takes place. They're in Los Angeles, right? Which I don't know how Man Thing made it from Florida to LA, but whatever. But they're in Los
And he
Angeles
probably traveled through the sewers or something.
through the through the sewer system. Yeah,
I don't know.
maybe. Um, it'd be funny if he was just walking, like just through the forest or whatnot. It'd be pretty funny.
Probably.
But yeah, he's like, Los Angeles, nestled in the bowl of the San Fernandino Valley, concrete scab beneath the desert sky, a sky that even on a clear day is blotted and smeared by the gray-brown pall of automobiles, pollutants that hang heavy and still. They're strangely at peace until and like, oh my God, what's happening? An earthquake! It's just awful. It's moving, and then rubble, 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 earthquake. Um, and this giant like rock volcano thing, poof, just comes out at Sunset Boulevard. There's a mountain on Sunset Boulevard, and so you have here, which Ghost Rider, right? Johnny Blaze, and he kind of like falls off, right? And he from the mountain, he's like, either doing one stunt too many has rocked your brain blaze, or Hollywood just got itself a mountain. He's like, the flick I was going to watch, can wait, up and Atom, Skull Cycle, and kind of goes, and he turns into Ghost Rider, and he's like, you kick your cycle into high gear and speed up, the side of a dream. Beyond the torn remains of downtown LA, green foliage caresses your soft side of upward climbing slopes. Birds, the like of which you've never seen, sing out to each other with sounds that you've never heard. And welcome to paradise, Johnny Blade. And he's like, who in? And he turns around. And while that's going on, you have flown many nights, Michael Morbius. They changed to Morbin time. Many nights trying to outfly your memories. Martine, Boston Simon, Simon shot it all haunt the periphery of your consciousness with remembrance, but all are lost as the rush of your blood hunger screams through your agonizing mind until you see. And he's like, at last, that shadow form on the rooftop, he will satiate the lust that claws at me. His will be the blood that eases the torment in my soul, right? And so it's funny that he goes after Werewolf by Night because they're both pretty much everyone here is a member of the Midnight Suns eventually, but the first three members included Ghost Rider and I'm pretty sure Werewolf by Night. I'm not 100% sure, but um, I, you know, Werewolf by Night being Werewolf by Night and an uncontrollable werewolf, goes out and kills people for like that terrorize him. So Morbius being like that anti-hero kind of like I only drink the blood of those that have killed and have hurt kind of thing. It's like it's kind of perfect that they would fight. Also werewolf versus vampire, but he thirsts so he dives down to get Werewolf by Night, but it is not precisely a man that turns. It is snarling visage up the night. He's like, Lord, man, you're the, and he slaps some talents. Rake the moon white flesh. He's like werewolf, right? And Morbin Wolfie met once before in GS Werewolf number 4. As Marv kind of letting us know. But the two of them, begin to fight and whatnot, and the earthquakes start to hit the tremors, right? And they're subsided by they've subsided, but how no earthquakes end so abruptly, and the cause of it stands before me, yet impossible, a mountain, right? And so like on the opposite side of the mountain, you have Morbius, Werewolf by Night, and then Ghost Rider on the other side, and then in the swamps, right? Which what I'm assuming is Florida, right? Among the swamps, this night, life unneedful of other life shut off from life, human life. And this guy's fishing. He's like, catch me a big one, gonna break a record, make those guys back at the big old bar, B&O bar, choke on their beers, and he's like, hey, I got a strike, and like, feel her pull, that hook must be tearing her lip off, right? And it's like, he pulls out a fish, and Man Thing comes from behind. He's like, oh my God, get back away from me, right? And somehow from the freaking Everglades, he sees this giant mountain in Florida, or from Florida. He sees it. He sees it in Florida. That's in California. The mountain is in California, but he's in Florida seeing it, right? And so all these guys kind of see this mountain, and so they're heading towards it. Morbius is still fighting the living vampire. Um, and so they end up seeing Ghost Rider's abandoned motorcycle, and then through the forest, Man Thing comes, right? And he's like, "What's then in the forest? What manner of place is this that spawns such nightmares?" And one of them is like, "Welcome, my friends," and they all turn. And he's like, "I am who is called the Star Seed. I bid you welcome," right? And I'm assuming he's the one that came from the mountain. And the roaring silent scream of interstellar space rushes through the sense of these once men sense rooted firmly to the earth. The glow of a lifetime of suns blazes around. Blah blah blah. Pretty much, dude's there, and they're like, who the hell are you, right? And he's like, have I not said it, my brothers? I am who was lost and who is found. I am Starseed. He's like, I know you like a dream I used to have as a kid, a dream of angels and gold. He's like, yes, I am those and more. Dream again, my brother's son. In dreams alone are all things real, right, bro? Let me just be real here before I continue reading, bro. Marvel was tripping, bro. They got like this eye tentacle monster here, right, and then a flying mountain with this like
What?
Marvel was on some stuff, bro. I'm just letting you know they were on the line, bro, when they wrote this back in '76, bro. Yeah, New York was a different place back then. Um, but yeah, pretty much he's talking about the dream. They're like different dreams, right? He's like, it was a good place that mountain, peaceful, quiet. You know, it was an alien warship from far beyond the rim of the galaxy. We watched as the ship landed and dropped the ship. Pretty much the aliens came and dropped this freaking mountain on people, right? Until now, many of us left Earth without our mountain, hidden in caves deep within it. We waited until, in time, overcoming the aliens and utilizing their own far technology. Like back to here and then back to the here and the now. I am the only one left of my people, and now I am home. And they're like, that's peachy except for one slight muddle. You parked your mountain right smack dab in the middle of Los Angeles, which while it ain't much to go on about, it's still home to a lot of people, right? Like I merely returned to the place we occupied millions of centuries ago. It's like that place is gone ages ago. That place is gone ages ago. The Earth has changed since then. Continents have shifted from your time. And he's like, who the heck are you, right? When they see, Morbin Time and Werewolf by Night. And they all start fighting in fighting between each other, and Werewolf by Night ends up getting launched towards Star Seed's horse or whatever, and the dream becomes a nightmare as like, what are you doing? No, the thirst is upon me once again, and Morbius. Look at Morbius's face, by the way, bro. What is this, bro? Well, I am just trolling Marvel in the '70s. Like Marvel has some good concepts in the '70s, but this ain't it, bro. Look at Morbius's face here, bro. What?
No, look at Ghost Rider
No,
behind him,
bro,
bro.
the guy yeah, right here. Hold on. The top one right here. This one.
Yeah.
You you know when when you go to you ever watch Coco? Bro,
Yeah,
he looks
yeah.
like the skeletons from Coco, bro. That shit's funny. But yeah, 100%. Yeah. But yeah, he's like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm thirsty again. And Man Thing just kind of there like, huh, what's going on, bro? And you know, what's his face is upset, and he's starting to pull out emotions of anger, right? Anger that causes him to melt, right? That causes Man Thing to do what he does, right? Um, thank you, Presidente. Have a good one. But he's like, you wish to help this strange apparition with the skulls of fire. You understand the starseed's lost. He's like, what's that awful smell like a swamp? And he's like, you have no mouth which can communicate with your desire. All you can do is reach out. And he ends up touching him. And he's like, another one is like, get back, girl. And he's like, for crying out loud, even my hellfire doesn't stop it, right? Pretty much making him immune to Ghost Rider's hellfire, right? This is the one time where Pokemon logic is outdone by Marvel here, where fire does not beat grass. Um, he's like forgetting what you look like to the others, forgetting what you are, the Man Thing. And he's like, it's like he's tripping over something. He falls over his motorcycle, and he picks it up and starts riding away from Man Thing. And Werewolf by Night is fighting Starseed. He's like that refuge from Lon Chaney film has unhorsed him, and he's like, and they're falling right into my path. Made it, veered off just in time to avoid hitting them both. right? And pretty much Werewolf by Night is trying to kill, Star City. Is like, why, brother, are you mad? Why are you doing this? He's like, because we are cursed, Golden One, cursed to walk the earth as freaks and monsters, while you, in your absence from humanity, have managed to attain perfection. For reminding us what we might have been in your would have been, you will die beneath our fangs. And Ghost Rider's pretty much trying to mitigate all these. He's like, no, no. He's like, leave him alone. And he ends up, Morbius ends up turning around. He's like, the flames sear me. The Golden One can wait, intruder, until you've sampled the blood with your veins. And he ends up, first a werewolf, now a vampire. This is like a 3D version of the Monster Mash, right? And so, Werewolf by Night ends up like again going after the one dude, and Silver Seed or whatever. He ends up knocking Werewolf by Night out and um into Man Thing, while Morbius pulls down on Ghost Rider, right? And he's like, your vehicle gives you wings, intruder, but but its speed is not enough. And again, you reach out for understanding. He's like, I've been hurt, pain. It's strange for something to fear. And Man Thing pretty much grabs onto Star Seed or whatever, and bro, like this infernal screaming coming out from him because he is actually melting away from Man Thing, because he's afraid, right? Or he's like upset. Like the scream, like someone just lost his soul, and he's like, but as you extend your hand, the golden being grasps the concept of fear for the first time in his entire existence, and whoever knows fear burns at the touch of Man Thing's touch. He's like, no, get your hands off me, you half baked Dracula. I don't know whether you can be killed or not. I mean, how do you murder a swamp? But if you've hurt him, monster, I'll find a way to get you. And he's like, I swear. And this guy's pretty much melting. The other guy's pretty much melting, and Werewolf by Night's on him. He's like, now the werewolf is going for him. Must figure that he's free meal since he isn't moving. But you're gonna get him furry. But you're not gonna get him furry, so back off before I fry your ugly hide. That ought to hold them for. And then he's like, hey, he's still alive. He's like, yes, but I'm like a passing dream. I'm not home. I know that now. This is a place of pain, of imperfection. I could have made it otherwise. Otherwise could have given you hope. And he pretty much he uses his powers to turn them, like try and turn them back. And he's like, I'm Ted Silas again, and I'm Jack Russell. My shaggy side is gone. And like, my hands are no longer white. I'm whole again. He's like, and I'm not the Ghost Rider anymore. You've changed me. He's like, yes, but I'm passing, and the dream cannot be maintained. We're leaving, wandering back down the mountain, back where they came from. He's like, I can still change back to normal, but I have a hunch that for them it's impossible. And it's like, what a bummer. He's like, I'm white again. I'm still cursed, and I help destroy my one chance at salvation. And you hear this wail from Johnny Blaze. It sounds like you'll never forget it as long as you live. Go, brother. You've tried to save me from which is real. Um, isn't there anything I can do? He's like, no, the dream's all over. My time has passed with this place. I'm going home. And Ghost Rider ends up leaving LA. And that's pretty much it. This guy drops a mountain in the middle of LA. He offers the four monsters a chance to, go back to the way they were, and they all end up killing him. So that's the comic. But it's interesting because it's the first time the main core monsters, right? You have the skeleton, the vampire, the werewolf, and the creature from the Blue Lagoon or whatever, right? All coming together and like being a part of like a group, right? So it's kind of interesting how they're dynamic and how they interact. Um, but yeah, that was the end of that comic. The last one I do want to talk about is a really brand new comic. It was written in 2019. And so it's an X-Men comic where called Curse of the Man Thing. Um, where the X-Men, specifically Magic. Um, if you guys have seen the New Mutants, she's played by Anya Taylor-Joy, the Russian chick. She's Colossus's younger sister. Um, she is looking for um Man Thing, right? Um, Now, I gotta give you a little bit of backstory on the X-Men at this point because they've kind of changed who they are. Um, Pranay, how much do you know about like the X-Men in general, like where they are, where they're from?
I don't know where they're from.
Do you know like
Um, I
like
probably know like the original like people, the
like
original members of X Men,
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah. Do
like
you know like where Xavier's Institute is? Like the X Mansion. You know
No,
where it is? It's
no,
in
no, no,
so
no.
it's in upstate New York in Westchester, right? Um,
Right.
so how do I put
Damn,
this?
most of these heroes are in New York, bro.
Yeah, I mean, because ain't nobody. There's no crime in Pennsylvania, bro. Ain't nobody. You think that. Oh no, my truck in Ohio's missing, bro. You think that Superman or freaking Batman, or Marvel character Spider-Man is gonna go to Ohio and help some dude who lost his tractor, bro? Magneto's gonna be like, oh yeah, hold on, let me finish world domination to go steal this guy's tractor in Ohio. Like, it's either New York, and it's funny because they explained why crime doesn't happen in L.A. and it's because of the oh man, the villains from the Runaway, the Pride, I think they're called. Um, right? Yeah, the Pride. They're like a gang that run the West Coast. So it's like no one messes with the Pride because they're on the West, they're like the West Coast group, right? Here.
Is that Spawn?
No.
Oh no, no, no. Yo, bro, he looked like Spawn, bro.
Yeah. No. Yeah, the Pride, and then there's the Runaways, right? If you guys want to know a couple of the Runaways characters, here they are. This is probably like a newer version of them. Um, I haven't really read much of the Runaways, but I would love to read them. They're actually, a couple of them are real cool. This is not it. I think these are like Pride characters, like yeah, like LGBTQ characters. Kind of, whatever. Um, but yeah. Um, it's funny because like they kind of explain why no crime happens in LA. It's because there is crime going in LA, but it's all run by the Pride. So you know, like it's all down low. The Pride gets a cut, whatever. Or they have a name. I feel like it's not the Pride, but it's like whatever. Anyone that can correct me in chat. But here's Magic with Man-Thing, who's back in his lab at Empire State University. He's like, confused Silas. You do everything right. Picture perfect summoning, but then me. Um, so Man-Thing, the world's on fire, planning to do anything about it, right? And they kind of tweak Man-Thing's kind of like story here, right? A little bit. So, um, you go to Citrusville, which is by the Everglades, and this lady here is trying to access the Nexus of all reality, but she can't actually use it. She's not able to. And so she's like, you look like you got some deep dark mysteries. Sharing with Augusta and Lily went. Start with sharing where Aunt Augusta and Lily went. Boy, girls, they fell right through. I forgot her name, but she's a mutant, and she lost her pretty much her backstory. She's a mutant, and she lost her family. And she's trying to get into through the Nexus of all realities to go through with her family, right? She's like, it's solid. He's like, I'm blocked, but those old cowards just fell through. They fell right through, right? And she's like upset. He's like, so why won't you let me in? Damn it, right? He's like, fine, horticulture wouldn't have me either. My ideas were too big for their race and brains. Here's Ghost Rider, right? And he's like, you know, and they couldn't stop me. Harrow is still standing. My towers still burn anyone who sees them, no matter what the Avengers do. People can't fear me, right? So pretty much this was an event back in 2019. She tries to access the Nexus, and like, cause she loses her family, and she ends up like throwing like a. I'm pretty sure, like, I haven't read it fully. I'm still really behind on my new X-Men stuff. Like, I'm trying to catch up as best as possible, but she throws this big fit, I guess, and the Avengers are fighting. They're trying to, like, Midnight Suns, the Defenders, whatnot. They're all trying to fight. And she's like, we'll go multiversal, right? So here's Black Panther, Miles, and some version of a Hulk back there in Brooklyn. You have in Sydney, Australia, you have Iron Man and Captain Marvel. In Manhattan, it's Captain America, Iron Man, and I'm pretty sure this is Scar, not She-Hulk, but I could be wrong. And then there's Thor and um, Blade in London. And then we go to Krakoa. So I asked you before where Professor X's mansion is located, because it is located in Westchester, but that's not where the X-Men live anymore. And it's funny because they're not the X-Men technically anymore. The X-Men is a portion of what makes up the island of Krakoa. So this is by far my favorite version of the X-Men, because I would love for, like, you guys in chat to pretty much be able to like ask for, like, recommend X-Men characters for me. But they rebooted the X-Men back in 2017, 2018. So Moira McTaggart, did you see the X-Men movies, Roll, the last three?
The last like recent new ones, like
Yeah,
mm,
like the Last Stand. Oh, not the Last Stand. First Class, Apocalypse, and Dark Phoenix. Did you see any of those three?
no, I didn't see Dark
But you
Phoenix.
saw the other two, right?
Yes,
Do
yeah.
you remember Moira McTaggart? She is the scientist, the FBI agent that Professor X likes. He
Yeah,
really
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So they rebooted the X-Men and actually made her a really important character. She has the ability of reincarnation. That's her X. As long as she grows to like when she reincarnates to the age of puberty, where you develop your X-Men powers, she can reincarnate multiple times. And so she reincarnated 9 times and realized that the X-Men can't win. Mutants can't win. The like the Sentinels and the Days of Future Past events will happen, and the X-Men and the mutants will lose every time. So she tried to align herself with Magneto, Professor X, Apocalypse, the influential characters, right? They never won. So she told Professor X, or Professor X read her mind, and realized that the only way to win is if Magneto, Apocalypse, and Professor X all come together and make like one big group, right? And so the group consists of the main three, which is Professor X, Magneto, and Apocalypse, the X-Men, right? And the X-Men team that represents the Council for the mutants are Storm, Jean, and Nightcrawler. And then you have the Hellfire Club that joined. So you have the White Queen, which is how am I forgetting my favorite character's name? Emma Stone, Emma Frost, wrong character, wrong person. Emma Frost, Sebastian, bro, actors, Sh- um, Shaw, the Black Knight. I'm pretty sure Sebastian Shaw was right? And Kitty Pryde, who
Sebastian
becomes,
Stan.
yeah, Sebastian Shaw, the Black King. And Kitty Pryde becomes the Red Queen, and they form the Hellfire Club Council. And then the last three are right. So here you have 1, 2, 3. Here's Kitty, Sebastian, and or I think this is Richter, his son. And then the last three are um them, which is oh my god, I always forget this guy's name. I covered him the other day. This is Mystique, Mr. Sinister, and he is holy crap. He was created by Apocalypse. I forgot his name, but these are like the people that work for Apocalypse, right? So you have the Hellfire Club, the people that work for Apocalypse, and the people that work for Magneto, right? And then this guy is I mention him pretty much every time. He can communicate with like he knows every language. His name is Cipher, and he speaks to the island. The island is a mutant. It's a sentient mutant um island, right? And they live on the island, and they've established themselves as their own like nation, right? So like the United States, there's also Krakoa, right, which is the island where the X-Men live. That's the new story that they're doing. And Magic is a general for the X-Men group. And so her task is to speak with Man-Thing to be able to, cuz he controls the Nexus, to be able to stop her. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So they sent her to Empire State, and Silas tries to communicate with her. And so the way he does communicate with her is he pulls her body into him, right? I would like to pull her body into me, bro.
What?
No cap, bro. But like, anyway. Beyond the point. Silas is here, and so Silas he knows more than what we know, right? He knows his backstory, right? So she's like, "Oh, you took my sword." And he's like, "Where is he?" And she's like, "He doesn't matter." And he's like, "But where is he?" And he's like, "In hell, scheming for the throne. You know how he is." And he's like, "Is that a joke?" She's like, "My name is Magic. I'm the ruler of Limbo, and that's who your ritual summoned." Speaking of rituals, where are we? He's like, inside my worst nightmare, trapped in here with the smug teenager, right? He's like, please, I can almost rent a car. They're going back with banter, right? This is what Silas looks like, by the way, Man Thing. This is what he looks like in human form.
Okay.
And so they give us a bit more detail on his backstory, right? And she's like, please, I can almost rent a car. And unlike you, I read the fine print on the deal. You wanted shortcuts, years of success built on a mountain of diplomas. Then you hit a wall with SO2, the super soldier program that he wanted to do. You got so desperate with all those important men in Project Goliath or um, Project Gladiator or whatever. Not to mention your wife wondering, is Dr. Ted going to let me down, right? And so Ted, and so you went back to your old lab and you called up the devil, one of them at least my predecessor Belasco, and promised a solution. He promised a solution today for ruin tomorrow, right? You were so sure you could outwit him later, you took the deal. One spell, a simple supernatural fix to your complicated scientific problem, SO2, worked thanks to a dash of magic, a secret you had to keep, right? And so he made a deal with the devil that ended up affecting his transformation into Man Thing, right? You were so obsessed with hiding it, you couldn't see your um realizing Belasco's promise. You drove the wife you couldn't let down to sell you out to AIM. You injected the serum to hide the evidence of your ruse, and you mixed interdimensional magic with your blood. Your wreck unleashed it, tore open, tore tore open a rough little portal in space-time too. You created the nexus of all realities in that same moment. So he created the nexus of all realities. That's why he guards it, and it was all because of Belasco, who had affected him because of it, right? And so he's like, that I created the Man Thing. I know. Why do you think he shut me away here? He acts on instinct. Man Thing knows what I did. He knows what I am, a coward. I might have failed without Belasco's deal, but I wouldn't have obsessed over hiding it either. He he knew I was running myself. I thought I could outsmart the devil. I was wrong. Every time that happened, I did it to myself. I cursed myself. So she's like, it's true. So what? Looking to renegotiate. He's like, what? He's like, I'm not Belasco. You've lived in your ruin for years guarding the Nexus. I can end that void. The deal, and I can end that void. The deal, and let you pass on. Of course, if I do, Man Thing will be truly mindless, and the world and the world abandoned. Um, but then again, you do look like someone who'd let everyone else pay or everyone else fry, right? So pretty much, do you understand what she's saying there?
N-
So
nah.
he made the deal with the devil, right? And
Right.
so she is the ruler of Limbo, which is a small fraction of hell, right? That exists kind of like in between space and like it's a pocket dimension. And so it allows her to travel to hell. Eventually at one point, and I really do want to cover magic, she becomes the ruler of hell and is kind of like a devil. So at one point when you made a deal with the devil, it very well could have been with magic, right? And so she's offering him a chance to recreate that deal with Belasco, to erase it and redo it, right? And in doing so, what would end up happening is he would go on to live a normal life as
A human?
Ted Silas, as a human, as him. But being removed from Man Thing would mean that there's actually a mindless monster out there, right? Like
Wait,
consuming
so
and
there'll still
feeding off
be
you.
a man
Man
thing.
Thing. He'll still be
Roman.
real, but Ted
Okay.
will be. It's kind of like if you were to split the Hulk and Bruce Banner, right?
Okay.
There'd probably still be a Hulk, but there'd also probably still be a Bruce Banner, right? So he's like, do you really think I don't want to be free of this? I'm not to not be locked away, living helpless in a silent prison of my own creation. Belasco conned me into ruining my life. I wanted revenge. Now you ask me if I want out. She's like, tough choices, doctor. I've heard life's full of them. It's like it's almost funny. I just had to. It's almost funny. It just had to be now, as Man Thing's fires run wild. So now when I wanted to kill Belasco, you offer me freedom. The devil's math. I bet he's still laughing. This is impossible. How the hell am I supposed to do this? But she's like, by all means, Doctor, fill this time with drama. Maybe you'll accidentally decide before it all burns down. How can I? I am a doctor. Maybe this is my one and only shot at freedom. But curse or not, I won't be free of the price of this world. I can't. She's like, well, Man Thing, your power has been poisoned, your house has been stolen, ready to take it back, and now that you're done running from it, I owe you for Belasco's bad deal. So Man Thing, meet my riders. Look at me, the girl with the monster mentorship program, right? And she pretty much sets up a team of mutants that are all kind of like crazy monsters. I can name a couple of them, and it's pretty much just these three. I don't know who the three in the back are, but this is Marrow and this is Wolfsbane. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. And so, Marrow's kind of like joking, like, join the fun magic, let the dark child out. She's like, I got plans, Marrow. Don't you play nice now? She's like, never knew how pretty well taken care of your second favorite professor. We'll take, how, never knew how pretty will take care of your second favorite professor. That's how you're supposed to say it. As long as he doesn't, mind the mess. And so, magic being able to teleport, because she can cross through limbo willingly, bam, bam, teleports to the chick, and she's like, "You want in, lady? There's a toll to pay." And so out comes Man Thing with the Riders, right? And so she has her army of like demons. And she's like, "Man Thing, back from just a few cells, like cancer. Who's your squad?" Um, she's like, "I won't yield to this ground. You hear me, Swamp God? I'll rip you to pieces until you open your secret little dimensional gate. This reality is just the first spark. There'll be no stopping my fire." And so, bro cracks his knuckles, so he's like, we're all on the same page when it comes to humanity with experimentation fantasies. So Marrow pulls out her thing. She's like, hey, nice scars meat bag, want some new ones? She's like, you don't think I've heard that before? And Man Thing, the pretty much the Dark Riders end up taking those weird like frog demons, and he ends up fighting. But I think the frog demons were also in She-Hulk, but I could be wrong. Anyway, Man Thing ends up fighting the chick and whatnot, and they're all, it's pretty much a bloodbath. She's like, there's no way this doesn't go just like last time, and she ends up punching right through Man Thing. Pronite, what do you think happens when she punches right through Man Thing?
It doesn't even phase him.
Bro, he swallows the crap out of her. He like consumes her,
So
right? She's
she
like,
dies.
let go of me, and she's inside that realm where, my bad, hold on. She's in that realm with Silas, right? And so she's like, I think you're screaming, let me go. And she's like, Silas, what the hell is this? These can't be my aunts, and those can't be my aunts, and you should be long dead. It's like, I almost was buried deep inside the Man Thing. Then you managed to hurt him, so he hit the panic button and let me out. You haven't stopped me. My tower still blazes with this fire, and not for long. Your shot, you took your shot, and he's like, you'll know when you've taken my shot. And she goes and punches, and in front of Silas is her dad, right? He's like, Dad, you can't be. Where am I? What are you doing here? Say something, Dad. Answer me. And pretty much he's hitting her with like dreams. He's like, what the hell do you want? It's like, he can't help you, Harbor or whatever. Um, here I'm your only way out. And so with her being trapped inside, the Avengers end up saving the day and whatnot. He's like, anything, and all that like demon stuff gets sent to like another dimension. And she's like, I, and I promise, blah blah blah. Blah. I'm kind of lost here. And anything else you want to drop in, and anyone maybe is like, isn't that murder? It's funny banter between them. Anyway, and you'd have to promise to keep the flaming skull. Blah blah blah. Anyway, it's like, tell me where we are, Silas. And he's like, I did. Man Thing was born of interdimensional magic. He doesn't just guard the nexus of all realities. He houses a dark reality of his own, the Dreadscape, a whole world inside Man Thing where your worst fears lurk, where you can run, but they always catch up. I know mine did. I don't have to listen to you. And she's like, in here you do. No one else hears. No one else sees your suffering. There is no escape, or there wasn't until you. This is the Man Thing you hurt. We finally understand each other. Who do you think closed the Nexus? Thanks to you in here, we're in control. And she's like, I'll show you control, you unremarkable bastard. And she tries to choke him. It's like, let me out of here. I'll make what I did to that Man Thing feel like a bedtime story. I'll spread your face across those rocks. I'll push those branches into your lungs and watch you choke on every breath. And he's like, you're nothing, Silas. You think you suffered? Do you know what I gave up to be here? And he's like, the Dreadscape knows. And she's like, no, no. And she ends up getting sent to like relive her memories, right? Which is like her family burning alive, right? That's why her dad had like those marks on his face, and she's like she ends up leaving on fire, right? She's like, get off me, and he's like, do something, one of you help me, make it stop. I can't. Put me out, you stupid ferns, right? Put me out, and she ends up like melting pretty much. And I mean, that's pretty much the end of the comic. They end up having this banter. The fire whips out, and she's like, faster than your mouth. She's like, where am I? A long way from home, Harriet. And she ends up seeing her aunt. And back in Citrusville, this chick ends up reviving Belasco or some shit, and Man Thing ends up pulling him in to like redo that deal, and like having Belasco, like renew the contract with him, redo the whole thing with him. But that was pretty much what I have of Man Thing.
Bro,
Um,
towards the end, it's kind of fucked, bro.
yeah,
He just
he fucking he's not like a superhero. He is definitely an anti-hero. His he his goal is to either change back from Man Thing to Silas or protect the nexus of all realities. He has no other, he doesn't care if the world's about to explode. He doesn't care about anything else. His goal is to protect the nexus and see if he can change back. That's it. Right? So, um it's pretty interesting when he drags like look at this, bro. It's like what he's like, probably he's like um he's like, you know, pretty much getting pulled down. Look at that by the fucking tendrils of Man Thing. He's like pulling him down.
dude.
It's crazy. It's interesting. Um, and so yeah, Man Thing is a very interesting, very great character. But you just have to like I can't like again. I'd say this every single time. I can't do these characters justice with 3 comics. Um, maybe someone like Cosmo because he only had like 7, but really Man Thing's been around since 74 or some 71. So it's like this guy has been like an influential part of Marvel for so long, especially guarding the nexus of all realities. Um but yeah,
How
he's
many
not a
comics
hero.
does Minton have?
A lot. He's been around since 1970 something, and if you publish like 50 or 60 comics a year for that
Damn.
many years, 1971, 47, 48 years. 60 comics, maybe we'll do 20 comics a year. 20 times 47, right? 1,000 comics ish. Depending on, he's also probably been in other people's comics and whatnot. So like this was an X-Men comic. So yeah, but yeah, that's Man Thing. Very interesting, very cool character. Um, you wanna give me a grade on the spoopy, scary Man Thing?
I'll give him a 10, bro.
Yeah.
You know, when you first like introduced Man Thing, I thought, okay, maybe he's not like all that.
Mhm.
But like after hearing him and what he does and such a great character he is, like he's pretty underrated character in my opinion.
Yeah, most definitely. He's he's that like creature that roams the night kind of thing. That like the creature of the Blue Lagoon that roams the night kind of thing, right? And so he's very cool. He's a very interesting character, and it's very funny his dynamic with certain characters that aren't afraid of him, like Werewolf by Night when you see it in the Disney Plus show, or Howard the Duck. He has really funny relationship with Howard the Duck. If you guys are interested in seeing how Howard and Man Thing here interact, check out that Howard the Duck comic because it's really funny because um like he comes from a Howard the Duck comic. Like Howard the Duck makes his debut at the end of a man or Howard the Duck comes from a Man Thing comic. He makes his debut at the end because his girl was having a dream and Man Thing was like her protector or whatever. Because the dream was like from a wizard or some shit, and he Man Thing wants to save the girl, and he tries to, and Howard the Duck kind of follows him. So it's funny. It's a like nice little thing. Um, but yeah, that's been Man Thing. Just a little bit of Marvel news before we head up. Um, Black Panther drops in less than a month. And I'm pretty sure they've just confirmed Harrison. Yeah, Harrison Ford has officially joined as the replacement for Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross. So how Harrison Ford, famous for playing Han Solo or Indiana Jones, is going to be the Red Hulk in the Thunderbolt show. Um,
Harrison Ford?
Harrison Ford. Yep. Indiana Jones
Yeah.
or Han Solo is going to be Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross, the Red Hulk. Um, so yeah, just quick Marvel news for those that were interested. As well as what else can I give you? I know that Marvel has postponed a lot of their stuff. Kevin Feige really took a hit when he read the Blade movie and realized it was dog shit, and so he went
You
back
read
to
the script?
yeah, they gave him the script. So the script goes through Kevin Feige, right?
Gotcha.
And so Kevin took the script and read it and was like, "This is the biggest piece of shit I've ever seen. This is the biggest. This is the biggest piece of shit. This is the greatest piece of dog shit, right?" And so yeah, and so he's like, "I'm not doing this anymore." And he fired the guy and said, "We need someone else on set to write Blade." And I'm pretty sure they got the guys that
I feel
wrote
bad for whoever wrote the script,
Black
bro.
Panther. I'm pretty sure they got the guy from Black Panther or the guys from Loki. I do not remember. But one of them is working on Fantastic Four and the other is working on Blade. Um,
I'm looking forward to Fantastic Four.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Um, I would highly recommend, even if you guys, I know a lot of people are all like, "Oh, Marvel's gone, Marvel's dead." I would,
Oh wait, hold on. Sorry to cut you off.
yeah,
Have you seen Wolverine and Deadpool? Like,
yep. Hugh
they're-
Jackman is coming back
yep.
as a Daredevil, is Wolverine for Deadpool 3. I'm kind of excited for that, but that also got pushed back till 2024. So yeah, the comics that or the movies that got influenced because of it were Captain America: New World Order, The Fantastic Four, Deadpool 3, and Guardians of the Galaxy. No, no, no. Daredevil. Those were the kind of those are the shows or movies that got pushed back because of Blade, because Blade is set to show up before Captain America. Um, but yeah, that's just been some Marvel news. Um, Pranay gave us the grading. Yeah, that's pretty much it for Man Thing. If you guys have any questions or anything about Man Thing, if you guys want to see more comics about him, I do have a list of comics for Man Thing for you guys. If you guys want to read more on him, just message me on that bottom that email I had at the bottom. I'm trying to see all if I got all the things right. This should be the YouTube, right? Okay, no. I linked the questions up top. Yeah. All right, let's see. That's for the vote. I think this one should be for the day stream. Let's see. And then this one's the YouTube channel, right? Yeah. All right. I've linked them all there for you guys if you guys do want to take a look at my stuff. What I have given out for you guys. I highly recommend going out and watching it. But apart from that, do you have any last words you want to say regarding the podcast or Man Thing or
Um,
whatever? Anything else before we go?
about Menthin, you said that he's immune to fire, right?
Well,
Because
Ghost Rider's Hellfire, yeah.
oh, just his Hellfire or
Well,
just fire in general?
I'm assuming that means fire in general, because I'm assuming Ghost Rider's fire Hellfire is stronger than normal fire. Um,
So like, is he also immune to like him being frozen with ice or something? Like, if he went up against one of the X-Men
like
characters?
Iceman, right?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm assuming he would be because he can regrow from like cells. So if like let's say he gets completely frozen and his like little thingies, like one of them fell off, and like his
yeah.
whole body
He could just
combusted and it
regenerate from that
disintegrated.
one
That
little tiny
one thing
piece.
should be enough to be allowed to regenerate him. Yeah,
That's
as long yeah,
crazy.
he is a very like OP character. Yeah. Um. Yeah. Again, that's why, and we'll wait and see until I cover Elsa and the Bloodstone to tell you why like that really does have an effect on monsters and like really weakens monsters. But if you guys are interested in that, you guys will have to tune into my next two episodes because I do go into detail on those World of by Night characters. Um, But yeah, that's been this week's episode of the Marvel Buddies podcast. Any last words before we head out?
Has been an interesting like character to talk about.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see him.
Yeah. Again, Werewolf by Night is where he shows up. I guess that's it for this week's episode of the Marvel Buddies podcast. I'll see you guys next week. Peace out, guys. Peace out.